It's great in two ways. So one is PCS as an actual product. Good care or outstanding care is outstanding care, regardless of what country it's in. But what it allows us to do is have a robust evidence base, and it captures things that we never really thought about capturing before. And actually, it's very refreshing for inspectorates and the CQC to be able to delve into that kind of level of detail, and even for us to kind of use that data to kind of inspire an innovation and improvement. But actually, as a company, as a partner, that's what really sold PCS to us, because they are experts at what they do, but they don't pretend to be care experts. They actually listen to their customers, they work with us, and they've adapted the system hugely based on the feedback we've given them, especially when you're talking about Scotland and Wales. They didn't pretend to know everything about Scotland and Wales, but they're so reactive, so responsive. Everything we've asked them to do has been done in a timely fashion and done with great efficiency. If you go back to how care has traditionally worked on paper, right, you would only really put a paper chart for things that you would put care on. So for example, if someone were to have weight loss, they wouldn't necessarily be on a very detailed food chart. They might be on a meals chart, but it wouldn't be necessarily a full-on food chart or food diary. So then the next thing the GP might say is, okay, well now you need to start keeping a detailed look. And then they might go, okay, we need to make a referral to dietitians. And then by the time they actually get the referrals that they need and the support they need, 8 weeks, 10 weeks might have gone. Whereas now we've got that data. But for me, the biggest improvement was actually the way PCS works best as a product is not about capturing what care you've delivered, but what you have tried to do as a carer. And what I mean by that is, we don't deliver care in silence. Sometimes a 10-minute conversation whilst you're assisting someone is a more meaningful activity than bingo or going to the shops. Those are the human interactions that we can actually capture. And especially now in COVID years, or in the COVID year that's been, you're talking about trying to battle social isolation, and that's a wonderful tool to capture that. MCM is quite wide capturing, right? So you've got obviously frontline carers, you've then got frontline management, and you've got head office management. So for me, personally, as a board level or ops level team member, it's completely changed the way I work, because before I would have to physically be in the home reading paper files. That's the only way that I could have any sort of audit trail, or I could keep abreast of anything. I genuinely feel I know my residents better now, because I can see how they're doing. I could be in England and I'm looking at a home in Wales or a home in Scotland, and it's just absolutely wonderful to be able to keep an eye on things that I picked up on something a week before, rather than having to drive 200, 400 miles or whatever. I can literally just be sat on my desk checking disparate information, basically. In terms of the carers and the nursing staff and the managers, though, we actually did a time and motion study. So what we found is that on average, we would say carers saved about an hour to an hour and a half a day, and nurses up to 4 hours a day. Because actually what we found is that a lot of carers got into care because of the human side of it, the human interactions, to actually provide care for people, whereas a lot of what their time was taken up with was actually record keeping. It's a very important part of adult social care, but it takes the humanity out of it. And what this has freed them up to do is basically, rather than spending an hour and a half at various intervals in the day catching up on paperwork, they do it as they go along. So not only is the record keeping completely contemporaneous and therefore meets our CQC regulations, most importantly, it's 20 to 30 second chunks that's been split up into. So actually it's a much smoother process. For the nurses though, it's almost become an assistant to them. It allows them to effectively manage their shift. Also, more importantly, when they're getting phone calls from GPs, social workers, whoever it may be in terms of external stakeholders, it's not a case of, oh, I'll ring you back. It's whilst I'm on the phone to you, I can pull out the information that I need. It's at my fingertips, and therefore they can be more responsive and they can provide more effective care. And even from a home management point of view, I know that we try and encourage our home managers to have work-life balance, and that's not always the case, but one of our home managers said that she hadn't had a proper break until we installed PCS. And what she meant by that was, even though she might be sat in a beach somewhere or on a hotel somewhere, just half an hour in the morning going through PCS gave her the peace of mind that for the rest of the day she could truly switch off. Whereas what she used to tell me is when she went away, for the whole period she was there, it was always in the back of her head, am I going to get a phone call? Is this going to happen? Is CQC going to walk in? Is Care Inspector going to walk in? And actually, just by being able to have that half an hour check it completely reassured them. PCS saves time for staff on all levels. In terms of frontline care staff, they get to care, they get to be with their residents, they get to enjoy their job again. For nurses, it means that they can have an extra pair of hands effectively to help run the shift. They know what needs to be done, they know what's being done. And even for home managers, it gives them that extra safety net that when an external professional like a stakeholder, like a GP or even a social worker calls, that the information they get is not only up to date, it's accurate, and it looks professional in the fact that they're not, having to say, right, we'll call you back in an hour. It's let's have the conversation now. For me personally, it saves me time, because previously the only way I could get information was from being in the home, and if you're talking about working across 3 countries, that meant being on the road 6 days out of 7. So it's nicer that when I actually get to the home, I've already done my kind of research in terms of if I need to read care plans, I've read the care plans, I've looked at the charts, I know exactly what topics I need to cover, but then I get to spend time with the residents, and I feel like the residents get to know me better as well. So I get to enjoy my job more as well. As an industry, we've lost a huge number of staff, who very good staff, to it, because obviously they got into adult social care to provide care, and what they ended up doing was just paperwork. What PCS and the biggest innovation it's brought to us is it's allowed people to go back to providing care. It's brought the human side of care. So actually it's not about digital transformation, it's about transforming the way we work completely. So it's actually a tool that supports providing the human side of person-centered care. MCM is one of the most intuitive pieces of software that we have and that I've actually used, and I guess that's the main reason we actually chose them. We looked at a myriad of different competitors. It would be very typical for those demos to go on for 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours to really get to the bottom of it, and I walked away feeling like I actually knew more than the people who were talking to me. When I had the PCS demo, it was over in less than an hour and I had 0 questions. So in Wales, unlike other inspectorates, they actually have template paperwork that they encourage you to use. So they have it's called an All Wales framework. So that might be for pressure care, or it might be for care planning. The one in particular we were talking about was oral care, which right now is definitely something that CQC and Care Inspectorate of Scotland are drilling down on, but it was a bigger topic in Wales a few years ago, and they introduced an all Welsh oral health risk assessment. So we asked PCS, is this something that they could integrate into the system? Not only do they integrate it into the system, but they actually saw the merit in what the questions that were being asked. They actually improved their existing tools for English and Scottish customers as well. So not only did we get it just for our Welsh home and their Welsh customers, it benefited everyone. We do use the Relatives Gateway, and I must say in 2020 it's been absolutely a lifesaver. We completely understand that our relatives, or the residents' friends as well, are in a high period of anxiety. They're not being able to see their loved ones for a long time. I won't say it's just as good as being in the home, but it's definitely a close second. Their response to the COVID-19 outbreak and pandemic was second to none. They were doing things so quickly and responsively that I didn't even have time to ask for it. A good example would be the coronavirus symptom check, the track and trace before even the government had got its track and trace app together. They built in video calling into the system. Obviously, they've made the Relatives Gateway more robust. I mean, the coronavirus symptom check has been, personally for me, it has been a godsend, because especially now that we're auditing everything and stakeholders are asking for audit trails, it's literally 3 buttons and I can provide them with thousands and thousands of pages of evidence. It's fantastic. With PCS, I could ask for a fundamental change to the system, and it could be done within 7 days. And that's the biggest thing. It's you're speaking to people, you've got a partner who actually wants to work with you. They use their initiative to actually develop the product. They never rest on their laurels. But my biggest compliment I'll give to PCS is that they are experts in what they do, but they don't pretend to be experts in what they don't know. They will work with you, they will pick your brain, they will go out and find information. I pride myself on trying to keep up to date with the latest best practice, but I'm not afraid to go to the product development team at PCS and actually ask them for their knowledge and their opinion, because they keep themselves so well informed. We're part of a pilot scheme at the moment, so we're sat in a home in North Somerset, and we're working with North Somerset Council to be able to send our hospital discharge information directly to the NHS. So if we ever had a 999 situation, rather than having to print off paperwork or gather all these sheets, we click a single button and it's waiting in the A&E department on an iPad for the doctors to look at as the resident is travelling there, which saves precious time, could save precious seconds, which saves someone's life. If they're a company who want their carers to actually spend time with their residents and to provide care, then there's only one piece of software that can do that for you, and that's PCS. If we go back to the way that care operators worked on paper, you'd only have a fluid chart for those that were at risk of dehydration. Unfortunately, we care for people whose needs can change overnight, can change quite drastically overnight. What PCS allows us to do is capture that information with ease and with speed, so everyone can have that same level of support and documentation. What we have found is that we've been able to respond more effectively, sooner and better when someone is showing signs of a UTI, and get them the support and treatment that they need. Also, because we're keeping up to date on, because we're using live 24/7 data around fluids, any risk of dehydration is acted upon immediately, and so we are minimizing those risks of UTI at source.